rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I call this school board meeting of Independent District 544 to order. Clerk, will you take roll, please?
Yes. Kirby Anderson.
Here.
Natalie Knutson.
Yes.
Melanie Cole. Here. Matthew Lemke. Missy Hermes present, and Stephen Vigasa.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The agenda is approved. So we have a resolution on acknowledgements. Thank you to Barry and Pamela Betcher, Jean Shetman, Joanne Connolly, and Starla Kloxvik for their donations to the Otter Angel account, an account created to anonymously assist families unable to pay for student meals. Could I get a motion to approve that resolution?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll
I can
second.
take roll on that.
It should be a resolution.
Oh, it's a resolution.
It's a
Yeah, yeah, it should be a roll call.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Is there a second to that?
I did.
Okay. Natalie Knutson.
Yes.
Melanie Cole.
Yes.
Missy Hermes, yes. Stephen Vigasa.
Yes.
Kirby Anderson.
Yes.
The resolution is adopted.
And reports tonight. Our first report is from Michaela Posh talking about the summer marching band trip.
Hello, everyone. So, we're back after already getting the trip approved in December. So we're just gonna hop straight into why I'm back. Last Sunday, we found out that the parade that we were supposed to be marching in July was moved outside of the dates that we planned to travel. So, Josh, Ashley, and I met as soon as we found out about this. We found out last Sunday, and we met on Sunday night to figure out what we could do about this situation. And we were faced with 3 possible ways that we could solve this. The first being we keep the dates and we find a new parade around the St. Louis area. We move our dates and keep the parade, or we keep our dates and find a new location. And we value having our students home by July 4th so that they can spend that with their families. So we took that one out. And the other parades that are around St. Louis at that time just weren't the right parades to travel for. And that's the biggest reason we're traveling, right? Is to march in a parade that's going to be memorable for our students. So we made the choice to go ahead and plan another trip with the same dates to the Chicago area to march in a parade around there. And so we spent last week working on what that trip could look like. And I'm actually really excited about what we came up with. It's a more well-rounded trip than what we had before, with lots of wonderful opportunities, including seeing the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. They're going to be playing the soundtrack with the Star Wars movie playing, which is something that's really cool that professional orchestras are doing. And then as well as visiting the Museum of Science and Industry, going to a beach to spend the day, still like Shed Aquarium, Six Flags. A really well-rounded trip. And the other plus about this is that we are able to cap the cost of the trip at $800 with all student meals included in that cost, which is lower than the other trip. So that's actually a huge plus for our families as well, that we're able to cap that cost. So that's where we're at with that. Do you have any questions for me?
Do you guys have any questions?
I do not.
I think so.
In case you're wondering, we applied and have been accepted to a parade that is happening within the dates that we are in Chicago.
Huh?
So like, that is something that is settled, and we wanted to make sure that that was settled before we obviously shared any information with anyone else, so. Yeah.
Thanks for your work resetting it.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work.
Thank you.
So our next report will be from Principal Kolbeck, our elementary principal.
Good evening. So tonight I want to take maybe just a little bit of a different approach to previous presentations at monthly board meetings. Tonight I'd like to just talk specifically with you about one of our 5 district goals, and that would be district goal number 2, which is achieving grade level literacy with all 3rd grade students. Achieving grade level literacy with all the 3rd grade students is measured in the spring of 3rd grade when our students take the Minnesota Comprehensive Assessment on the reading test. But we know full well that this starts in kindergarten, 1st, and 2nd grade, and it's just not a measure of 3rd grade. In fact, I would say that achieving grade level literacy starts well before kindergarten, but we can control what we control. So if you will allow me tonight, I might get a little bit deep into the weeds with some of the maybe new things that we are kind of excited about. I'm going to spend most of my time talking to you this evening about this book, but before I get to this book, I want to just tell you how we arrived at this. We have 9 teachers in grades K through 2 who are involved in a training called LETRS. LETRS is an acronym. LETRS is L-E-T-R-S. L-E-T-R-S. It's a training. That acronym stands for Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling. Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling. 9 of our teachers in grades K through 2 are currently working through this training. When they are done, this training will be well over 100 hours of their own time that they're putting in to complete this training. This training is grounded in the science of reading. I do want to take the time to mention these 9 individuals. In kindergarten, there are 4 teachers: Tina Billings, Trista Kitzman, Jessica Cole-Hayes, and Shelley Schoenig. In 1st grade, Jeremy Knick and Kim Walvotny. In 2nd grade, Pam Sherman and Mary Stish. And then our Title I teacher, Jessica Molstry. So those 9 folks involved themselves in this training. I'm hearing comments from teachers who have taught 30+ years. Wow, I wish I would have known this when I started teaching. This is great stuff. This is going to change the way I think about how my kids learn how to read. It's gotten me excited because I've seen their excitement. And there's been a lot of engaging conversations that we're having. So one of the pieces that came out of this LETRS training was this book. Our teachers will refer to it as Haggerty. Haggerty just happens to be the name of the gentleman who authored this book, Dr. Michael Haggerty. But it's called Phonemic Awareness. A phoneme, the base word of phonemic, phoneme, a phoneme is a sound. It's just simply, a phoneme is the smallest unit of sound in speech. So we're talking about phonemic awareness, being aware of the sounds that we make in the English language, and there's exercises in here, some of which I'm just going to actually share with you tonight. This book, the first teacher, I believe, that came to me and said, "Would you please buy this book for me?" was Kim Walvotny. Pretty soon then, everybody in the training said, "Would you buy me that book as well?" Pretty soon then, one grade level said, "Would you buy everybody in our grade level that book even though we haven't had the training to which then it grew to the other grade level, to the other grade level. So now I can say that all teachers in grades K through 2, plus our title teachers, have this book. This is not formally adopted yet by our district's curriculum committee, by you guys, but it's, as Deion Sanders would say, we're coming. It's coming. Anyway, you gotta check him out. This, I believe, is going to be a part of our reading curriculum moving forward. And if done correctly and done well, it takes about 10 minutes per day. And it's really, really important. Because before kids can understand phonics, which is the connection of a sound, a phoneme, with a letter, a grapheme, before they can make those connections, they have to be able to hear the sounds that are in the language. So, I said I might get a little bit deep in the weeds. Let me give you some examples of things that are in here that our teachers do with our kids daily. Rhyming. A teacher might say, which word rhymes with sat? Soup, bat. The students will say bat. They'll go through 5 or 6 of those. And then you move on to initial phoneme isolation. So when we're talking about the initial phoneme, what is the sound? What is the first sound in a word? And can you isolate that? So the teacher might say, part. And the student says, pa. Then we move into, and they'll do 5 or 6 of those. Then you move into blending phonemes. So we're going to blend some sounds together. So the teacher will say, f, e. And the students say, fee. So, f, e. All the kids, fee. Then we do phoneme isolation. We look at the final sounds in a word. A teacher will say, club. The students say, b. Club, b. So they have to hear what is the last sound in that word. A lot of our teachers will say, some of our kids aren't hearing the last sound in these words. But our teachers haven't done this before. We are so excited about what will our first grade teachers see next year, because our kindergarten teachers are doing this with their kids every day. What will our second grade teachers experience next year, because our first grade teachers are doing this with their kids every day. This is going to be a part of our curriculum in grades K through 2, starting next year, but it's happening right now. Moving on. Segmenting into phonemes. So a teacher will say she, and the students have to say sh, e, she. Then there's adding initial phonemes. So a teacher will say at, add s at the beginning. The students say sat. So I'm just giving you one example in each area, but they do this 5 or 6 times in each area. Then they delete initial phonemes. So the teacher will say fan without f. What's left? Kids say an. Then we substitute initial phonemes. So the teacher will say T, change T to K. And the word is, the kids say, key. So really good stuff. And really engaging. Wow. To watch the kids, their minds. So some of the teachers call these listening games, but they are really engaged in this. So really good stuff. All right, now, along with this piece, there's another book about this size that we are going to be purchasing for all of our teachers. And if you hear them referring to that as UFLI, UFLI, the acronym is UFLI, stands for the University of Florida Literacy Institute. So UFLI Foundations. And that book, or Foundations, it's an explicit and systematic phonics program that introduces students to the foundational reading skills necessary for proficient readers. One of the frustrations of our teachers over the years is that whenever our district adopts curriculums, the phonics pieces of those curriculums don't seem to be taught in an order that makes sense. We have found something that makes sense out of the University of Florida Literacy Institute. Our curriculum director, Amelia Lamar, recently spent some time visiting a neighboring school district, spent the entire day there, talked with the teachers there who are very excited about what they have adopted into their school district this year and what they are seeing their kids able to do. UFly, our phonics piece of our instruction, is about 20 minutes per day. Our teachers are just now going to start piloting UFly for the remainder of this school year. It's 20 minutes a day of large group instruction, and then they can continue with some of that instruction during their guided reading groups. So our current Wonders curriculum has phonics instruction in it, but it's not laid out in that systematic way that makes sense. So our Wonders curriculum that we adopted a couple years ago has some really engaging stories in it that help teach vocabulary, fluency, reading comprehension. We're keeping that because the teachers say really positive things about that. So really, when we look at our reading curriculum now as we pilot it, and probably most likely into the future, we're going to break it down into 3 pieces or 3 parts. We'll have Haggerty, this book. We'll have UFly, which is, as I talked about, another book similar in size. And then we'll have our Wonders curriculum. All right, last thing I want to share with you. In the fall, winter, and spring, we do screenings with our kids in the area of reading. In kindergarten, we do 3 screenings. We do a letter naming fluency. So kids, in a minute, how many letters can you identify? We do letter sound fluency. In a minute, how many letters can you look at and tell us the sound that that letter makes? And then new this year, just this winter, our Title I lead teacher, Jessica Molstry, has put one in that's called phoneme segmentation fluency. So what that is, the teacher giving the assessment will say go, and the student has to say g, o. Or the teacher might say gave, and the student has to say g, a, v. So phoneme segmentation fluency, we're just going to start measuring that. We really don't have a baseline because our kindergarten kids have been doing this all year. But we're going to start paying closer attention to that and looking at that. Our first grade kids do letter naming fluency, just like the kindergartners, but then they do another one called nonsense word fluency. So they have to look at nonsense words like NAM, N-A-M. So on the sheet of paper, they read NAM, or BAF, B-A-F, or LEP, L-E-P, nonsense words. But if you can read them, we know that you're able to put a phoneme with the correct grapheme, or the sound with the correct letter. Our first graders also do a words read. How many words can you read per minute? And they also do an oral reading fluency. They read a small passage. How many words per minute can you read? And then in second grade, they do the nonsense word fluency, the words read per minute, and then the oral reading fluency. So really they do three of the same that the first graders do. Our first graders end up having one additional screening exam or screening in the fall, winter, and spring. All right, so I told you I'd get a little deep into the weeds. I did, I think, but I wanted to stay on topic a little bit and just tell you about some of the new things that we're looking at, some of the things I think that we're really excited about. And I can't wait to see what those third grade MCA reading scores are going to look like 1 year from now when this year's second graders get there, 2 years from now when this year's first graders get there, 3 years from now when this year's kindergartners get there. Really looking forward to that. But there is some momentum right now. There is some excitement right now about what's going on. And it's driving our discussions in some of our grade level meetings, at some of our PLCs, some of our staff meetings. All right, I went a long time. Any questions?
Yes, I do. Are the IQ Academy elementary teachers able to be included in some of that training? Are they involved in the PLC work of the bricks and mortar?
Yes and no. Would they be able to be involved in this? Yes. Are they a part of the bricks and mortar PLCs? No.
So how do they get in on that? How do they know about this? Who's going to?
Yeah, myself or our curriculum director could let Mr. Johnson know.
Mr. Anderson.
Right behind you?
Something like that, yeah.
Oh,
There you go.
yeah. Or Mr. Anderson. But really, it's visiting with Ryan Johnson.
Because in large part, and Mr. Anderson, correct me if I'm wrong, they have the curriculum, we supply the teachers, so adjustments to the curriculum need to be coming from them, correct?
Yep.
So,
We have to approve it.
And they don't have differentiated instruction there, and we
No.
have really low reading scores.
In the IQ area.
Yes.
Yeah.
we have low everything.
And that may be one reason why.
But this is super exciting.
It is.
It is,
Especially,
very
I mean,
exciting.
This is,
When staff is excited about,
Yes.
number one, curriculum in general, especially new curriculum,
Yes.
and it's just neat.
and when you see the kids on fire, like you were talking about, that they are comprehending it and they're excited about it, especially in such an important area, it's just really wonderful.
I observed a kindergarten teacher recently, and she had 4 kids around her table. And the things that she was doing with those 4 kids, I kind of looked at her and I said, "This is your top group, right?"
Yeah.
What I said to her quietly was, "This is your top group, right?" I said, "This is your top group." As they all had their backs to me. And she said, "No, I have 2 groups above these guys." I was blown away by what these kids were doing. She credits a lot of it to this work that they're doing. And if the kids can hear these sounds, then when they get to the phonics piece, it's gonna make a lot more sense.
I'll just say firsthand, my son's a kindergartner, and one of his teachers is one that you mentioned, and he has made leaps and bounds since the start of the school year. Coming in knowing like maybe half the alphabet to now like putting words together. Yeah, super cool. And he's thrilled.
And I think with the MCA scores that we've seen in the last couple of years, we've got to turn that around ASAP. Couple things in relation to that. I'm glad that you've covered the part with kindergarten versus secondary, because it all starts there. But it actually starts before that even. If we can work out at Lincoln to help with the preschool so that they can get the kids as prepared as they can to come into this curriculum. Even the daycares, if we can work a little bit harder there, it's what it's all about. I guess my other question might be more for Tindy, is, we have some kids that have shown that they're struggling in reading the last couple of years in the MCA scores, but now they're in 4th and 5th grade. Is there a way where they can we catch them up somehow? And then are there things, and maybe that's part of, that's part of what you're doing right now to get them going. But
it's a challenge, but it looks like we're up for it, so that's good.
Well, we think that some of this work in this book can continue to be done in older grades as an intervention. But we would view this as tier 1 instruction
Yeah.
for kindergartners, first graders, and second graders. Everybody getting this, all kids, every day. So the goal I shared with our teachers is all teachers, for all students, every day, using this. And I said goal, but I did share with our teachers, I said I stopped short of using the word expectation. I said because this is not adopted, but it will be.
Yeah, that was gonna be my question. When can we get that to the curriculum committee, at least for an initial, explanation about what's coming and get them kind of in tune to what's being done? Can we?
You talking about the DACRAC committee?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah,
Sure.
when
Yeah,
can
I
we get
mean,
it on there? So that so it's not operating outside that, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it could be fast tracked to the February meeting if they wanted it on there.
Do you have any teachers that are resistant to using that?
No. Hesitant maybe due to some insecurities.
Sure.
I haven't done this before. I don't know if I'm very good at it. But man, they can just learn from watching YouTube videos. We watched it. We watched a teacher deliver this on a YouTube video at grade level meetings recently.
Cool.
Very exciting. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, our next board report is to Rund, elementary school.
Alrighty, good evening. I'm just gonna respond a little bit to what, what do we do with our third and fourth graders when they're at Cleveland and aren't working at grade level yet. We do a universal screening in the fall, winter, and spring with all of the students to measure their progress, along with STAR reading and math assessments on a regularly scheduled basis. And we look at that data. Their STAR scores can be mapped out so we can see the trend in which they're going, if they're making adequate progress or if they are not making progress. It shows us if the intervention's being successful and effective or not. And then we also then need to adjust the interventions so that the child is going to be able to make adequate progress. Right now, we just, here at the beginning of January, we finished our universal screening for winter. We've gathered all the data and put it on a spreadsheet, and then we sit down and look at that. And there's been some movement. Some students were making progress. They met the maintained or improved with 3 consecutive progress monitors. That's our indication that the student is ready to exit maybe RTI intervention. We look at students who have been receiving title services to determine are they making progress and are they ready to exit. It's not a given that they're going to move from Title I programming to RTI programming before exiting. We really look at each individual student to determine what's appropriate for their intervention. So that's what's happening in Cleveland right now. In addition to that, we are looking at our district's MTSS plan and evaluating our interventions, evaluating the programming, what's taking place where can we as a district also improve. So that's in the works right now too. So just to speak to what happens after K1 and 2, but we're all working together to really ensure that students achieve that third grade level literacy. So it's a work in progress. There's been a lot that's happened, lots of events that have taken place since I last reported at the board meeting, and I just wanted to provide you with an overview of that. As you already know, each year Cleveland does an annual Presents for Pets service project, so to speak, and once again our students, it's an opportunity for them to learn about a resource in our community. This benefits the Humane Society. So they learn about the resource in the community. They learn about how they can contribute to this resource, why it's important for Otter Tail County as a whole, and have their questions answered. They are passionate about their own pets. They love animals, so it's a topic that's right at their level of understanding and how they can become involved. How it fits into our portrait of a graduate is that contributing citizen. Here's what they can do at their young age. They recognize they are a citizen in our community and our county and state and nation. Here's one way that they can be involved at this point in time. During the week of December 12th through the 16th, our third grade classes hosted gingerbread house making. Each child got to invite a special family member or friend to come in and spend an hour in the afternoon building gingerbread houses. And it's a special event. Lots of excitement, low stress, music, treats, candy. They leave with a masterpiece of all their own. But it's a really fun way that we get people into the school to feel comfortable and build those partnerships with children and their families. Also during December and January, we had guest artist Sarah Ronovic come and deliver art lessons for third graders and fourth graders. Our third graders were able to learn and paint a watercolor landscape picture where they looked at horizon and blending sky colors and mixing colors for the landscape that they were painting. So that was a great experience for them. Our fourth graders did more of a cityscape watercolor painting, and so a little different experience for each grade level. And thank goodness Sarah was flexible. We encountered some of those wintry weather days that just negatively impacted the schedule that we had mapped out. But thanks to Sarah, she was accommodating and adjusted her schedule so that everybody got that lesson either before our holiday break or right after we returned in January. So it's a good experience for those kids. Also during October, November, and December, our fourth grade, 4 of our fourth grade classes implemented their project-based learning unit, which focused on a fictional narrative. And over this, I'm going to say it was about 6 or 7 week time frame, they took a good look at what is a fictional narrative. One of their big driving question was, how can authors teach life lessons through fictional stories? The subjects that were incorporated were reading, writing, grammar, and spelling. And I'm gonna just share. This was really a big PBL project that spanned time. It's hard to just condense into a summary of what all they did, but I'm going to try my best to do that here. This project, students worked in literature circles to read and analyze fictional stories. Because before they were going to be able to author their own fictional narrative, they really took the time to study what a fictional narrative is. They were able to select a fictional narrative picture book that teachers had provided for them, and then work with partners to share their fictional narratives, study what elements were incorporated into that fictional narrative. They used a graph to analyze characterization, setting, the storyline, and all the different things that the author included to do a study of that. The teachers divide, I should share this too. There were several standards and benchmarks, there are several benchmarks that were in those areas of reading, writing, speaking, and grammar that went along with our Minnesota State standards. And also in the profile or portrait of a graduate, it really helped kids, they were required to really dive into literacy, time management, oral and written communication, being open-minded in problem solving, working with others, coordinating their own fictional narrative. They needed to be self-directed and to stay on track and meet some timelines that were mapped out for them, to find that passion in creating the story that was unique, their own unique story, and then also participating with a partner, participating with a group, making a plan for their their end product and this special event that they planned. So it touched on a lot of these areas. Some of their learning targets, students were going to be drawing inferences from fictional text, determining a theme of the story that they were going to be writing, identifying those story elements of a fictional narrative, using a writing process to strengthen their writing. They had a story map that they used to guide their writing and incorporate all of the elements that they were studying that were part of a fictional narrative. And then also that grammar in their writing, the conventional English grammar and writing. So the teachers divided this unit into four parts. The first part, like I mentioned, they were provided fictional narratives and picture books. Some of the questions that they were studying were what makes a good fictional narrative, what lessons can be learned from fictional stories, who's going to read our stories that they were writing, and then how will we publish our stories, along with how can we write stories that readers will enjoy and also learn a lesson from. During part 2 of this PBL unit, students selected a fictional text. They used the graphic organizer to study their work. They worked within literature circles over the course of several days to listen to one another's fictional stories and what they were learning from them. And then some of their guiding questions were, how does an author hook a reader at the beginning of a story? How does an author reveal characterization through dialogue? How do characters' actions and dialogue contribute to the theme of a fictional text? And how does an author create a complete and satisfying ending? And so as they studied these, they were discussing in their literature circles and with their teachers, how am I going to incorporate these elements into the story that I'm going to write? So they studied thoroughly all of these aspects of a fictional narrative. During part 3, they started their own. They used that story guide, creating a story map. They provided one another feedback on the hook that they were starting to write in their story, and that just became, they strengthened that over the course of time. And then they used a self-assessment to check the boxes and assess their own writing. They also incorporated peer review, so there was used some guiding practices to conduct those aspects and get feedback to improve their stories. They edited and revised their final drafts, and then they were able to take the time to prepare their writing for publishing. I got a chance to sub in a classroom on the day that they were doing that, and it was pretty exciting. They had, some people had incorporated some pictures into their fictional narrative, others were solely focused on that story, but it was really, really exciting when they got to that part, and there was a lot of, they were proud of the work that they did. They had put a lot of time and effort into these fictional narratives, and so it was pretty exciting when they got to that point of publishing. During that same time, they had been preparing on hosting a publishing party where they were able to invite their family members in. And so on different afternoons, each class had an afternoon where they set up the lunchroom, stations where they were going to meet their families and then read their fictional narratives to their families. There too, there was an, what did I just say? A critique, so their family was able to see the elements that they were to be incorporated into their fictional narratives, and then their family members were able to provide that critique for the students afterwards. So all in all, it was a big endeavor for this project-based learning lesson, and it's one that it proved to be very successful for students and teachers. They were pleased with it. And it's definitely one that they will keep. So it covered a lot of standards and benchmarks and standards. So that was really exciting, and that took place right before, right at the end of December. And then just wanting to shift gears and let you know, a big thank you goes out to different groups in supporting the financial means for the PLC classes to order a new apparatus called a ski shoe. The ski shoe is wider and shorter than a cross-country ski. It has a universal binding, so a student can slip their boot into it and then the binding will hold it onto their boot. It's a really good transition between snowshoes and cross-country skiing. So it will be a nice progression for students to experience how do you operate a snowshoe or travel across the snow with a snowshoe to the ski shoe and then on to cross-country skiing. So at this point in time, the PLC, Prairie Science classes, have a class set of skis with boots that the 2 4th grade classes share, one set of snowshoes that the 4th grade classes will share, and also a set of ski shoes that they will share with around 200 students. So they're learning how to travel across the snow, obviously learning how to enjoy our winter activities outside, and it's just really enjoyable as well for those students. They were also able to order ski poles. Those poles needed to be used to replace some that were bent or just simply worn out and broken. But a big thank you to our Otter PTO. They had planned to use all of the funds raised through the Stambino Coffee fundraiser for this cause. That amount was about $2,300. A big thank you to the Friends of the PWLC, Friends of the Prairie Wetlands Learning Center. They contributed just over $4,000 for this purchase, and then also a 544 grant in the amount of $4,000. So without those financial supports, this wouldn't have been possible. So it's really a nice addition for the PWLC students. And along those lines, the 4 Cleveland-based 4th grade classes are taking a field trip out to the Prairie for these same experiences. So the classes at the Prairie are going to help the 4th grade students who aren't out there on a daily basis learn about these things and have that experience. So they're really excited about that. And I think that's happening February 1st and 2nd, so right around the corner. And then looking ahead, January 31st, the 3rd and 4th grade spelling bees will be taking place right here at Kennedy in the auditorium. In 3rd grade, we have 11 students participating in the spelling bee, which means 11 students of the grade level scored 20 or more on a preliminary spelling test that was given to them. Their spelling bee will take place at 8:45 that morning, and then the 4th grade spelling bee, there are 15 participants, and those students spelled 22 words correctly of this spelling test that was given. So great participation there, a really great opportunity and academic challenge for those students who are ready for that. And then lastly, during the month of February, each year we highlight Health Heart, and we do that through FIED. The FIED teachers host the Kids Heart Challenge, and also Dental Health Awareness Month. This coming Friday on January 27th, we have a dental hygienist coming to school, and we'll be providing lessons for all of the students and providing them with some dental care supplies and a neat little coloring sheet that they'll be able to take home or we'll hang up as well. So lots of big and good things happening here in the past and in the future. So with that, I'll conclude. Any questions?
Questions or concerns?
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next report is from Ivan Hurst, our middle school principal.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
As I started to think about what would make sense to talk about it, the mid-year, it seemed like a good idea to start with the mid-year update on advisory. If we recall, we are having advisory 2 days a week. Took time out of the block to do that. With 7th and 8th grade, we're doing it on Tuesdays and Fridays, with Tuesday an SEL lesson and Fridays grade checks. So we continue to trial SEL curriculums with middle school students. We started with 7 mindsets, then we went to be good people, And in a few weeks, we'll transition to second step. And it's our goal is to make a recommendation to the DACRAC committee at the April meeting about what curriculum will work best for us. We've tried 3 at that point, so we should have a good idea. Other things I want to bring up with the advisory, as we trial the curriculums, December was our Attitude of Gratitude month, so our advisory went through a set of lessons in Be Good People with the mindset attitude of gratitude. And that fit in really well with something that they've done for a long time, which is penny wars. Most schools do some kind of a penny war or coin war, and ours is called Penny Wars. And this year we included all 4 grades in the Penny Wars, and the classes were, they competed against each other and against other grades. And that motivated a lot of kids to the tune of around $4,800. Wow. Wow was right, yeah. So now the student council, because they didn't expect to have this many dollars, they're figuring out how to redistribute that back into our community. So really good exercise for 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. They're going to determine what community organizations make the most sense to donate to. So a really good exercise for them. I also want to talk about our teams. A couple times a week, our 7th and 8th grade teams of teachers meet and have talk about a various number of things, students, behavior, curriculum, but they've also taken the opportunity with advisory to plan some events. And the 7th grade, they went to the idea of relay races, and they're pretty good. Jesse has made some really nice videos. I can get those your way as well. But they did a holiday, they did a Christmas type thing, a holiday type theme for December, and this included passing the candy cane from one to the next all the way down the gym floor, and then sleigh rides. We didn't have any sleighs, we did scooters. So then they relay raced down and back. And some people might say, is that really a great use of time? For 25 minutes in a month, I think so, very much so. And I think the video really demonstrates that. So we have kids that I don't see smile on a regular basis that are smiling because they're getting involved, and I think that is really worth a lot. And right now, 7th graders are looking forward to that. The 8th grade team, they planned what they titled a holiday extravaganza. Sounds good, doesn't it? Some of the options that students could select included, they had a McKinley play along. So we sent students over to McKinley and they got to interact with some of our young students. We had a gingerbread house building contest. Students brought in items and they made gingerbread houses. We did some coding with Mr. Strand and we had students sign up for that. Miss Arnson did a Bob Ross paint along. So that was fun. So, and then we also did STEM at Cleveland. And there was a couple more, but I just jotted down some of the more interesting ones. But there was a variety of events that served all of our students because they had a variety of events that they could choose from. So that's some of the good work that's happening in advisory as we continue to use that time and planning for the future. I'm going to move to Saturday school. We had 2 sessions of Saturday school in January. And in the past, Saturday school has been used to help students who failed first and second quarter classes, and then they would get their grades up to passing. What the teachers through these team meetings, they said, we'd like to capture some of those students before they fail. So the idea that came from team meeting was to offer Saturday school the first 2 Saturdays in January. And one time we had 20 students come, and the other time we had 19 students come in effort to prevent their own failure. That's pretty cool too. So thank you to the teachers for doing that. We will start our normal Saturday school in February, the 7th, and then we'll run through mid-May. So we have that going on for our students to feel supported. Moving on to 8th grade science, they recently visited the Fergus Falls Water Treatment Plant. Students learned firsthand about the process our drinking water goes through in our community from ground to faucet. It was super interesting. I did take in one of the tours, which was about 25 minutes. And I'd like to thank Chad Lindgren. He's the water treatment plant supervisor, and he did a nice job presenting to sometimes a difficult group. But it was pretty interesting if you really think they're just taking that right out of the river. And so, pretty cool. Miss Holt and Miss Flateau brainstormed that up, and I thought, you know what, it's right there in our community. The 8th grade standards match perfectly to water, not only how we can use it in drinking, but how we let it go as well. So we didn't visit that plant though. We passed on that. Today was Thursday was the end of second quarter. Today was the start of third quarter. Pretty smooth overall. A couple technology glitches. Grades are due this Wednesday from teachers, and report cards will go out by the end of the week. Last Wednesday, the 16th, 5th graders held their first band concert. For the concert this year, Mr. Cumrow shared a typical class period for 5th grade band. That was pretty cool because he has a lot of stuff going on during his class period. This was really, it wasn't a concert. I think he just held class so he could teach them some more stuff. But that's really what you saw from being in his classroom on a regular day to this concert. It looked very much the same. And it was complete with attention getters and other classroom management techniques, including stomping feet instead of clapping hands. Mr. Cumrow really does a really good job with his students, and he's a really valuable member of our faculty and music department. I'm going to keep going here. We just held our middle school spelling bee last week as well. Tara Price is the advisor, is the director for our spelling bee. First place was 6th grader Dexter Fellstool, and runner-up was Sarah Eklund, who's a 7th grader. Dexter's final word was kerpan. That's a noun. You don't know what this is. Anyway, you might. A sacred dagger of the Sikhs. Here's the sentence. Although a kerpan might resemble a sword, it is actually an article of faith and is worn at all times close to the body. He could spell that. What? Seriously, the last 10 words, I only knew one, doppelganger, otherwise I couldn't tell you the last 10 words. Sarah and Dexter will compete at the Regional Spelling Bee on February 7th at Lakes Country Service Co-op. Okay, we've been working on this for quite some time. We're not close to done, guys, because we got past one of those around. I'm a big believer in core values. So we've been working on core values with our staff. Sorry you didn't get color, but we're trying to save some money. You like that?
Yeah, thank you.
So core values, that's what we hang our hat on. That's really what the portrait of a graduate is. Core values that we believe in and that we're focused on. So you got 2 sheets there. The first one, let's do the Otter Way. Mrs. Renee Erickson a number of years ago launched the Otter Way as part of her master's program. And I should have kept it for myself. I'll have to do it from memory anyway. There's 2 different ones there. Thank you, Mr. Gray. There's 2 different ones. So this is the student, the Otter Way. Otters are always otters. I didn't dream this up, but through discussions with our staff over about 4 meetings before school got out and a number of meetings since, this became very clear that our school, our teachers yearn for a common language. We can make up a new one, or we could use the one that we already have embedded with Renee Erickson's master's project, which is Otters Are Always Otters. Mr. Lemke's nodding because he's like, I know all about this. But we got the nice mural downtown. We have a couple posters in our hallways. So otters are accountable, A, respectful, R, and enthusiastic for the E. And that really fits, and then we put words in those categories so we could explain what that means to kids. We decided this with the caveat. This is something that we all have to subscribe to or it won't work. It has to be part of who we are and what we do, not just a poster on the wall. So this is something in the middle school culture, which our staff talked about, that we need to have. And it very much mirrors exactly what the portrait of a graduate does in the fact of this is how we operate. My wife and I had a long conversation on the ride home from, I'm going to say St. Cloud Tech. And at St. Cloud Tech, they had posters on the bathroom. Here's how you act in the bathroom. Then they had a poster in the lunchroom when I went over there, and they said, this is how you act in the lunchroom. And then they had a poster over here that said, this is how you act in the hallway. And I'm like, man, that's a lot of rules. And they're all good rules, right? Don't get me wrong. They're great rules. But there's different rules for all these different places. And so we had a nice conversation, but we already know all the rules. Be kind, be safe, and those things are represented right here. We can have a whole bunch of different rules for all those places. What do we do on the bus? What do we do when someone's speaking? But this will tell us how to operate. So we're going to get some posters printed. We have our postcards. We'll have a committee of teachers that will help us run this program. And I'm excited to see where that goes. But this is a good backbone of where we want our middle school to go in the future. Yeah, that's good stuff. I really enjoy this stuff. Core values. I'm a catchphrase kind of guy. You know from my presentations that my sense of humor might get the best of me from time to time, but I like the catchy, memorable things. And so in all these meetings, again, we're talking about what's important to us, what do we value, and the first most important one that we heard from staff was they really wanted to have this be an enjoyable learning environment. Some people might call that fun. I don't have a problem with fun, as long as it's as long as we do the work, we can enjoy some of the fun, and sometimes they can go hand in hand. The one that I like the best, the one that I'd never heard before, but someone already wrote this book, so I probably will pass on that opportunity. But people first. People first. Tell me what matters more in this building than people. And you can't. That's rhetorical. Sorry. But those are the things: relationships, teamwork, communication, community, collaboration. If we spend energy on those things, we're going to be in great shape. We're going to be in perfect shape. I think success is a process, which is a phrase, another nice catchphrase, which is one I wish we'd have had when we launched PBL. If I could have said success is a process and have this foundation for the staff before we got to PBL, we would have got through that a lot easier. Because there was a lot of pain, because it was scary, it was unknown, what are we going to do? And if we could have had the core value established, success is a process, it would have been simple. Okay, maybe not perfect, but pretty good. Because no one rode the bike the first time, and no one swam without a floaty the first time. Right? Success, it never happens. And all of our sports teams, it's easy to see in sports, but they're winning and losing and growing all at the same time. Be your best self. So those are the areas that we're focusing on that. We want to be enthusiastic teachers. We're focused and accountable. We're purposeful, but yet we're all enjoyable to be around too, because that's people first as well. And then model the mission. What's the end result? We had tons of conversation about model the mission, and we decided, and maybe I decided, but no one disagreed yet, that model the mission is a little bit different for all of us. And my definition of model the mission is what comes next. That's what we're preparing kids for, what comes next. In high school, right, for the whole world, we're preparing them for life after high school. I've used that phrase for a lot of years now, and I can't use that one anymore, so I have to change. And I say, what comes next? And so these, and this is a lot of words. It'll be for both of these, it'll be shaved down in a lot of presentations to just the catchphrases, so that it's more advertisable, if you will, if it's more postable, and then we'll review what this means. The staff core values, that's how we work. That's how we operate. People first. When you are frustrated with kid, parent, principal, people first. And we maintain those relationships. You might not like the end result, but you will not be mad at the process. I could keep going, right? And I should stop because I think someone's timing me. So you're welcome.
There's no time.
There is no time.
There's no time.
All right. Well, I want to come to the work session because I can keep going for you. Really great stuff. I think this is going to help. The conversation is the meal. The result is okay. The result's result, but the conversation that we all got to have over these last several months, that's really the part that's worth it. Okay.
Thank you. Do you guys have any questions?
Well, I'm going to tell you about one more item.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
He paused.
Yeah. I took a breath, didn't I? You're like, okay, we gotta get rid of this guy. I'm gonna tell you about the 7th grade science PBL. Ted Colhorst and Carrie Flateau are 7th grade science teachers, and they explored the topic of endangered species. The 7th grade teacher started the unit by showing a video clip on rare endangered species to hook the students. Animals that they might see or be aware of in their community or their world. And then they gave the students a website, worldwildlife.org, and they got to select one of the animals from that, animals, birds, mammals from that site, right? They were able to click around and check out the species, endangered species in the world. And students would work through one of the species, and they had to do the following things. They had how do limiting resources, more people, affect population and communities of those species? Students got to figure that out. They got to learn about that. How do organisms interact in symbiotic relationships? How do natural and human disruptions to ecosystems result in changes in the population? Like, this is good stuff, right? Why is biodiversity important? And how can human society reduce the impacts on the environment? And that was their driving question. What can we do as people to help? Easy one, right? The bald eagle, we all know that story from start to, I mean, they're everywhere. And it used to be really cool. Oh my gosh, a bald eagle, and now you kind of see them every day somewhere. So the project took about 5 or 6 weeks to complete. They taught mini lessons periodically. So they didn't just do the PBL. They would do a mini lesson, and then they might go back to their regular work. And then maybe in a couple days they would do another mini lesson or have work time on their project. So students, their end result was to create a website. They learned about limiting population factors and conservation efforts. They learned about food webs and energy pyramids, and they came up with a potential solution and created a website. So I think that really fits very well into the PBL and a number of items in the portrait of a graduate. Comments from Ms. Flateau. Kids seem to enjoy working on the project. They were always excited when it was website day. We thought it was beneficial to see how all the topics that are usually kind of standalone, all connected to one species, that they chose and had an interest in. It seemed more real life, real world compared to just learning topics in a science class. At the end of the projects, the students presented their websites to the class. They were nervous and most dreaded their presentations, but it was good practice for public communication and exposure to show off their hard work. So, now we're ready. Yeah. So really, I mean, this is kind of that's the PBL that we want kids to have, right? They get, here's the structure, here's the process, pick something that interests you and learn about it. And Ms. Flateau and Mr. Colhorst could go through that and check a lot of boxes that would be standalone that fit into one unit. And they did it over a period of time. So some kids could take it farther if they wish. And some kids did. They went off the charts with what the expectations were. And some kids still kind of gave you this is a lot of extra work because we don't tell them we have rubrics, but we don't tell them that this is good enough. We don't answer that question because that's what kids want to know. Is that good enough? Like cleaning your room, is this good enough? No. Tell me if it's clean. Well, I guess not. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay, any questions from you folks?
Kirpan, Kirpan.
Sounds easy, doesn't it?
There you go.
Yeah, I didn't know what it was.
Cursor.
Might be fit into some kind of phonics teaching that
There you go.
we're working on.
So I I want to ask a question, because there's a lot there.
Go for
There's
it.
a lot.
So
So,
which part?
all of it.
Okay.
But on the SEL, so I know
Yes.
that the staff is working on the different curriculums. Ultimately, is the goal though to be able to, whatever SEL we pick,
Mhm.
to help for our students to get to the core values that you have on here and the other way.
Yeah.
Just help it, right?
Yeah, I think that's well said.
Because I think this is really good.
Thank you.
So,
Okay.
that was my question.
Anybody else? Thank you. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
your passion.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
Our next report will be Mark Anderson, our high school principal.
Oh, how are you guys tonight?
Good, good.
All right. I'll start with project-based learning. So we've communicated with our staff, asked who has completed them and who has not. So at the high school, 47% of our staff has actually completed a project-based learning activity that they're expected to complete this year. Myself, Shane, Derek have been invited to many of those, as of some of the school boards and Superintendent Drake. The kids are amazing when they do that, and I'll kind of connect some of the things that, why we listen to the things that they're doing. The other 53% of the high school staff is going to do their project-based learning in the second half. We'll get invites again to those pieces. Of that group, of the high school staff, 22% of the staff, which is 9 staff, want more project-based learning professional development. They've requested it, they feel they need to get it to make sure that they guarantee that their PBL is what we're expecting of them. Our high school administration does use our core values, 5 Cs, our mission and vision, and all the presentations we use. When we do equity work, when we've worked with the equity in the district, I make sure if I've been asked to present, we put those in there. Our American Indian Parent Advisory Committee has those on there too. I try to rotate them so they're not the same every month when we meet with them. One of the other things talk about is project-based piece. We were doing some of that stuff at the high school. The reason we moved to a 5-period day is because of our students. They interviewed, they went out and researched, they brought it to our staff and communicated that information to us. So we're listening to the things that our students and their staffs are talking about when they're doing their project-based, and there's purpose and reasons behind them doing that. Same thing with the SEL. One of the last presentations I was at, our students are very important. They feel that the SEL activities that we do 5 times per month, they're really excited to hear that we're going to do them weekly next year in guided study hall or the outer time, and they feel they're very beneficial. The opportunity to get to learn each other, know about each other, open their opportunities to and themselves up to listening to others, hearing perspectives that might not be their own. Maybe their beliefs are questioned, but that's okay because they get to have those. So those are great opportunities. Some of the things that we heard from our kids, they love the first week, no homework. Beginning of the school year, building relationships with teachers, setting a foundation of what the expectations are in the classrooms. Today was a no homework day, so the kids got the freebie today, but we're gonna go into some of that opportunity starting next week, or tomorrow with homework. But the expectation we've talked to our staff is, make sure your students are ready for it, that your expectations and your syllabi has been given to them and they understand the expectations of what you're asking of them, and slow down sometimes to make sure that those are clear. One of the other things we have implemented is the retake policy. It is going really well for us. We need more kids to take it, that opportunity at times. Sometimes we need to maybe be the adults and step into their space and say, I think I need you to take this test again because it's going to be in your best interest. We've had a couple of teachers who have gone past 7 days, have opened that opportunity for students because they feel it's best for them. It's about learning. It's not about just taking a test to move on. So those are things we'll talk about second semester in preparation for next year. What is that window? What does that look like? We have registration night coming up in February 13th and 16th. The staff is, they're sending emails like crazy right now to their guided study hall, their outer time students and parents for next year, letting them know that we're meeting and what the purpose of that is. It's about us drawing community members, our parents in, to get to meet them and build those relationships with them. Because we can't just have a relationship with our students. They need to know mom and dad as well. And sometimes parents don't like being in school because they didn't have a good experience. So how can we get them back in to make sure that they're seeing that their son and daughter are truly, we're passionate about them. So in our registration process, we're really gonna hit on what career and college readiness is. We're gonna talk about all the great things that the kids get to do and take as opportunities in this building, be it SEL or just areas of interest for them. What does that mean as a 9th grader all the way through your senior year? And what does our personal learning plan look like? What are we going to guarantee you when you walk out of this building? What are you going to take with you other than just possibility of getting a diploma? But what other skills are we sending out the door with you to make you meet our profile of a graduate? We are starting this week pre-registration and registration processes with our 8th graders all the way up through our 11th graders. Seems like we're doing it early, But we feel like getting the information to the parents and students and giving them time to chew on the registration book, course book, talk about those type of things is a big deal. One of the things we're using is we have the ability to let a kid see a pathway through a program. So if I choose I want to be in agriculture, I can actually click on that pathway and find all the classes I should be taking, either in an honors college or just in the ag classrooms that we offer. We want the kids to see the big picture, and they're only seeing a narrow piece of it right now. So we're trying to open those doors for them. As we get at the end of February, I'll be visiting with the superintendent about FTE needs at the high school and coming to him with those. ISTE standards, the high school staff started that last year. They put some things in a Google Doc for us, let us see where they were teaching them, how they were using them. Many of them have implemented them into their project-based learning. And in their current PLC standards alignment, you will find every single ISTE standard is somewhere in the content area that we teach at the high school that a student will have in their 4 years here. So the high school will cover those ISTE standards multiple times in the opportunities through us, especially specifically to what kids need as far as they go through in their courses they choose. Our National Honor Society inducted 28 students in January. It was awesome to see. It was a great evening. The parents were proud. Last week on Martin Luther King Day, the high school and ALC had Jonathan Judd, our community's Otter Tail County judge, come in with 4 other representatives, and they actually presented to 3 classrooms. They brought 3 classrooms down to the media center and talked about civil rights. And then that group actually asked us to have a meeting only for our BIPOC kids, just to see how civil rights in their world play compared to now and in the past, and open up what life for them here at the high school looks like and what does it feel like. And so we got that information, and Jonathan, or JJ as many people, his friends call him, we're going to start meeting monthly just to kind of go through that list and what do we need to do here. A lot of the kids have come up to me and asked, how do we get him back? How do we get him and his friends and his peers to present to all of us in the building? So a lot of those conversations are going on right now. How do we make those type of things happen? Attendance continues to be an area of focus here for us at the high school. We have some things we need to fix in that space, in that area. And Mr. Tilke and Mr. Abrahams and I are working on what that means, not only for us in the building here, but also for activities, what our expectations are there. So we will be bringing something to the board that we believe we need to have a conversation about that's specific to the high school, and some things that need to change about the amount of days that we allow kids to have as excused absences. Right now, as you heard before, we had an excessive amount of kids with excused absences above 20 last year. We're working with, I'm going to be working with another district employee who is going to get their administrative degree. That person is excited about that opportunity and is going to help write our weekly SEL lessons for next year, so those will be in place as we go. They'll meet our project of a profile of a graduate, and it'll also be specific things that are about being good citizens in school and being a good person as they're in the building. The district-wide American Indian Parent Advisory Committee met last week. We're starting to get more and more family members coming each week, so we're really excited about that. One of the reasons I mentioned that is one of the things we did talk about is bringing a resident artist to the district for the middle school, elementary, and high school. Bringing that person in and offering that opportunity for Native American art to happen in a classroom for a period. Some really good things that come out of that meeting the other night. One of the things we feel like we're doing is we're sprinting to catch up to things that happen. So in our next 2 meetings, we're going to set the next year's calendar. So this is what we're going to do each month. Here's what we plan to do with our kids. They're going on Wednesday to college to visit our 7th through 12th graders who have chosen to go. But one of the things our committee has decided is, why not Fergus Falls, and why wouldn't we have something for other local community members that are Native American to come here and celebrate their culture and heritage in Fergus Falls. Location and what we plan is yet to be determined, but we're looking at those opportunities for our kindergarten through 12th grade students and families. The ALC, 30% of the teachers there have implemented their project-based lesson. The remaining staff will do theirs in second semester. One of the things they're adding with theirs, they're not just giving grades anymore. Kids are working through competency-based education. And this is with 30% of the staff that has fully went that direction. So all their classes are all about mastering content, not about getting a grade. 50% have met about half of it and are moving to finalization. And 20%, some of our newer staff are just implementing, and we'll get into second semester with that piece. The kids seem to be doing really well with it. Understand it's not just about doing work, it's about doing work at a high level, meeting some rubrics and expectations. There are 2 new complementary courses that the ALC is going to offer next semester, which are based around project-based learning. One is called Wizards at Work, which is math, and then Wizards at Work in science. So they're going to be teaching the same group of kids together. The 2 courses are entirely project-based with the emphasis on real-world application of math and science concepts and theories. The course will explore the following topics: Tesla coils, geometric cities, ecosystems, weight bridges, and more. The LC is right now at 91 kids. We have 101 kids that are in the building. A couple of them from us come down 1 period a day, but 91 full-time students, they're full. They're taking nobody else right now. One of the other things that they're offering down there, Mr. Rodriguez is taking 23 of our high school students 7th period. They got the experience to walk down the hill with Mr. Anderson today to go on the right door. They're really excited, a little nervous when they walked in, but a friend with a waggy tail came to meet them at the door, and they felt much more at ease, especially when they got a kiss on the cheek from Rolo. And they're working on the 5x3 and registration also on what kids might want to take some electives from us here at the high school. In the IQ Academy, 35% of their staff has implemented their PBL, which means 65% will do it second semester. They also are requesting 9 staff members want more in-depth PBL training. So those are things Ryan and I will be talking with Kristen and the Staff Development Committee on how we move forward with that. They continue to rotate grade level team members each week. So when they onboard students up until the stop date, someone each week has to onboard kids so they get the expectations and processes through. They build that relationship with families. It also offers the opportunity that it's one person connecting with the families that week. It could be the short straw, I guess, because you could have 6 families one week and 1 the next week. So it just depends on what week you have that you're onboarding new students. The weekly grade checks are happening. Ryan is up here right now with a counselor for the next 2.5 weeks to make sure that the kids who are taking IQ classes at the high school are getting off to a good start and know the expectations. A is also building that relationship with them, knowing that he's going to be checking in with them on a bi-weekly basis moving forward. And they are looking to actually hire with Stride a registrar position that is needed, because right now the counselor is doing a lot of that work, taking her away from what she should really be doing. And add an additional day for staff. One of the things they worked on is connecting with kids is hard, and it's hard enough when you're in person, but when you don't have to get in front of that computer and connect in. So the high school and the IQ Academy is giving 1 more day for the grades, specifically for the IQ. They want 1 more day to reach out to families and parents and students to get the grades in and get the work completed so kids can pass their classes. Any questions?
We've had, I'm surprised we have as many people asking for more PBL training. We've addressed PBL a lot in staff development. And, I don't know, does it?
Can
Go
I
ahead.
comment?
Yeah.
On February 24th, we have another staff development day, and that is one of the sessions
Okay.
that is scheduled, and that Amelia Lamar is actually the presenter for
Okay.
that. So that's an option for those people wanting
Okay,
that.
okay.
That's
All right.
next month.
Just a thought.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
All right, our last report is Superintendent Drake.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
My report will probably be a little shorter by comparison, but you will hear much from me during our work session when I go through the progress on our strategic plan. And what's been really enjoyable for me this evening is to hear about all these components of what was really a very comprehensive strategic plan, moving education in this district forward into 21st century preparation, the things that are going on now in the classroom, and seeing that plan come to life. So with that, I want to thank our paraprofessionals. It's Paraprofessional Appreciation Week, and certainly they are an integral part of our students' success. In many cases, they have the strongest bond with the students they work with of any other employees in our district. And certainly those relationships and the support they give really help those students to meet and reach their potential. I also want to thank all of our staff for the work they did in the first half of the year. It's hard to believe that we are now in the second half already. This has been a very quick semester or quick school year so far, but appreciate all the hard work. And shout out to our administrators who have been very much hard at work implementing these components of the strategic plan, working with the staff to embed the ISTE standards, to support them with the PBL work, to do the SEL components in the relationship building. Kudos to them for all their hard work. I've begun a preliminary draft of a 2023-24 school calendar. In a few short days, probably this will be ready for some vetting with both school board and the FFEA. And so we can get that on the agenda here in sometime, probably the second meeting in February for adoption. This one does have some different nuances with, but it ended up working out pretty well. We now have a calendar that reflects both a trimester schedule with the 5x3 and a semester and quarter schedule for elementary and middle school. So things I think, I'll be interested in the feedback, but I think things, the way they're designed, make a fair amount of sense for both schedules moving forward. We've also, Renee and I have started our preliminary work on the budget process for fiscal year 24. This takes a look at our enrollment projections. We also make assumptions based on changes to our revenue and also changes to our expenditures in creating that budget. And then ultimately it does go before the Finance Committee for review and then to the board as a whole for adoption later this spring. Kindergarten Roundup. This will be a little bit of a change in format this spring. It's scheduled for the afternoon of, I believe, March 24th. And so the kindergarten teachers will be actively involved. Mr. Kolbeck always very actively involved in meeting with the parents. But we're excited about some changes that will also include some assessment data which can help us put together some support for these students, help balance out the needs in the classroom for the following fall, etc. We are going to have, in a matter of days, a visit from the state fire marshal. This is always much anticipated, and so he will travel throughout all the district's buildings and ensure that we are up to code and following the required practices and protocols. And so we look forward to that feedback. This one I want to touch base on because I did send out a notification to the staff last week and also to the parents of students in KSS. But I did have some communication today. It was a phone message that said there were still rumors circulating over the weekend about the incident and what happened or didn't happen. So not to bore people in some details, but I'm going to explain a little bit about ammunition. So essentially what happened in this case is a student, a middle school student, brought a .22 shell casing to the middle school administration. In conversation with that student, it was determined that it came from a backpack that was sitting in the hallway. And the administration retrieved the backpack. There were 3 .22 shell casings and 10 410 shell casings. So none of this is live ammunition. In order for you to have live ammunition, you need typically either center or rim fire. That's your primer to detonate. And then you've either got a slug or bullet, or you've got shot or pellets inside a shotgun shell. And so all of these shell casings were inactive. They cannot be used as ammunition. There was no weapon, nor any rumors of a weapon being on the campus. No live ammunition was ever located, nor did we hear that there was any live ammunition on the school premises. And so we did work actively with law enforcement in doing the investigation, but at no time was there any reason to think there was any student or staff member that would be in danger. Most of the time, these types of incidents are caused by some carelessness for a student that may have been out with the family target practicing, etc. Forget that they've had shells in their coat pocket or whatever, empty shells, and that's how these go. But just to reassure the public, we do treat these incidents with great seriousness and continue to follow our process and procedures to make sure that we have a safe learning environment for both student, staff, and community. On the facility management side, we are well underway now with the commercial teaching kitchen, the construction of that. They had a really good first week where the framing was done. They'll be working on flooring, etc. And we hope that this will be ready in short order because the ALC does have a class that's going to use that facility this spring. So we're excited about that. And then just for the community at large, we did have a meeting, joint work session with the Fergus Falls City Council on a potential site for a new elementary. And with that, I will turn over to questions. All right, thank you.
Okay, we will move on to our general consent items and minutes of reorganization school board meeting and regular school board meeting held on January 9th, 2023. And then we have personnel items. Hand over to Elaine.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Just a few items. Under administrative retirement, we have Kristen Toole, our ALC director, and she has been with us, I believe, 27 years, so we do have a resolution further on in our agenda for her services to the district, and thank her greatly for all of that time. Under support staff hires, we have Eric Monham, who will be a night custodian here, effective actually today, and Eric has been with us as a substitute for, I think since 2011, so he is coming on board as a full-time custodian. So we welcome him. And then Carol Shower Sanderson, a long-term substitute over at Adams School, basically the end of this week, January 27th through March 3rd. So I would recommend these all for school board approval tonight.
Can I get a motion for approving the general consent items?
So moved.
In a second.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. That motion passes. We have old business fiscal year 2023 seniority list for Independent School District 544. Can I get a motion to approve the fiscal year 2023 seniority list?
I'll make that motion.
In a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion passes. So we'll go on to new business. We have a resolution directing the administration to make recommendations for reductions in programs and positions and reasons therefore. Whereas the financial condition of the school district dictates that the school board must reduce expenditures, and whereas this reduction in expenditure may include discontinuance of positions and discontinuance or curtailment of programs, and made whereas a determination must be made as to which teachers' contracts must be terminated and not renewed, and which teachers may be placed on unrequested leave of absence without pay or fringe benefits in effecting discontinuance of positions. Be it resolved by the school board of Independent School District 544 as follows. That the school board hereby directs the superintendent of schools and administration to consider the discontinuance of programs or positions to effectuate economies in the school district, reduce expenditures, and make recommendations to the school board for the discontinuance of programs and curtailment of programs.
I'll offer the resolution and move for its adoption.
Any second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I think it's good to note that this is something that we do every year in January, and it's part of the process. It's nothing out of the ordinary at all.
Nancy, can I get a roll call?
Melanie Cole.
Yes.
Matthew Lemke.
Yes.
Missy Hermes, yes. Stephen Biggessa.
Yes.
Kirby Anderson.
Yes.
Natalie Knudsen.
Yes.
The resolution is adopted.
Our next item is fundraising activity requests scheduled between February 1st, 2023 through September 30th, 2023. Currently, there has been 4 of them brought forward. So anyway, can I get a motion to approve the fundraising activity requests?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Number 3 here, Governor's Proclamation for Paraprofessionals Recognition Week. Whereas Minnesota is home to more than 20,000 paraprofessionals who provide services in multiple settings within schools, including support for instruction, student activities, and individual students, as well as numerous other tasks that contribute to educational success. And whereas the support and services provided by paraprofessionals are integral to student achievement, resulting in more effective Minnesota schools. And whereas the state of Minnesota and Minnesota Department of Education are committed to excellence in education and recognize the important role that paraprofessionals play in ensuring educational success. And whereas the Minnesota Department of Education will celebrate the contributions of paraprofessionals during Paraprofessional Recognition Week, which runs from January 23rd through January 29th, 2023. Now therefore, the Governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, hereby proclaims the week of January 23rd through January 29th, 2023 as Paraprofessional Recognition Week in the state of Minnesota. Is that a resolution? Okay. I'll offer that resolution and move for its adoption.
I'll second that.
And, can I get a roll?
Stephen Biggessa.
Yes.
Kirby Anderson.
Yes.
Natalie Knudsen.
Yes.
Melanie Cole.
Yes.
Matthew Lemke.
Yes.
Missy Hermes, yes. The resolution is adopted.
The next item is our 2023 pay equity report for the Fergus Falls Public School District, ISD 544. Can I get a motion to approve that?
So moved.
A second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Again, this is a compliance report. It's going to be ready through January. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Done every 3 years.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Say nay. That motion is approved. Our next item is the high school marching band trip, June 28th through July 2nd, 2023. They have requested to change the location of the trip from St. Louis, Missouri to Chicago, Illinois.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second. Oh, go ahead, Missy.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. That motion passes. Our next item is pre-planning proposal from Zerberg Architects. This is in relation to the elementary school.
I move to table that motion until next meeting.
Okay.
I'll second
All right.
Discussion is that we had the meeting with the city council prior to this board meeting, and doesn't seem like a artist rendering of the elementary would be of much benefit. So we're just gonna check that out a little bit longer. So that's the logic behind the motion that I made.
Any other questions? So all in favor of tabling that until future date? Say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion has been tabled. So next we have a resolution on the retirement of Kristen Toole. Whereas Kristen Toole began her employment with the Fergus Falls Public Schools in July 1996, and whereas Kristen has been a valued employee with the Fergus Falls Public Schools for 27 years, and whereas Kristen has been a dedicated special education teacher, middle school alternative education teacher, ALC lead teacher, and ALC director for the school district. And now, therefore, be it resolved by the Fergus Falls School Board to thank Kristen Toole for her 27 years of service to the Fergus Falls Public Schools.
I'll offer that resolution and move for its adoption.
I'll second that.
Missy, will you take roll?
Matthew Lemke.
Yes.
Missy Hermes, yes. Stephen Vigasa.
Yes.
Kirby Anderson.
Yes.
Natalie Knudsen.
Yes.
Melanie Cole.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted.
Perfect. And then our next school board meeting, regular school board meeting, will be held Monday, February 13th at 5:15 here in the Otter Community Room. Our last item, well, I'll mention our work session. We're gonna be talking about district goals and strategic plan, like Superintendent Drake had mentioned, programming and facilities. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Our meeting is adjourned.